Considering there's a war in Europe, inflation's through the roof, personal problems sometimes double. On top of that, I'm trying to get over a head cold. So if you found this channel, you found that you're not alone. We deal with addiction and recovery. I'm Sid Page. I'm an addict. Got a good friend in the studio with me today. Kristen, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Good to have you here. What's
Thanks. Good to be here.
what's going on with you?
Oh, not much. Living the dream.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just got back from vacation last week. Now I'm back in the cold weather.
Back to the cold
Yeah.
weather. Good to get away though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wasn't wanting to come back home.
It's always hard to come back, but you got a lot of people counting on you, don't you?
Yeah, I have the house and my husband and you
Mm-hmm.
guys.
Right. So you have a really interesting story to share with everybody. Long journey of addiction and recovery. Can you go back to
Yeah,
that?
I can tell you what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now for me.
Sure, wherever you want to start.
Um, so I grew up in Greenfield, Indiana.
Okay.
Um, I don't have anybody in my family that does drugs or has ever been to jail, not even really smoked cigarettes for that matter. Um, I grew up with good parents. My mom and dad split up when I was a baby, so had a stepmom. Grew up with my dad and my stepmom.
Hmm.
I was really into sports in high school. And when I turned 16, I found out I was pregnant with my first child.
Okay.
So I moved out at 17, moved in with my grandma. I had my child. I started going to school for nursing. And at the hospital, I met uh, my second's father, and I got pregnant, had another baby.
Okay.
And then after that, I'd always smoked cigarettes. I smoked weed, just growing up or whatever, just with friends hanging
Yeah,
out.
I did too.
But after I had my second child, I um, I got really hooked on Spice and Katie.
Okay.
I was really addicted to that. It was like I didn't even smoke weed anymore because that was more of a high for me.
That did it for you, other than the weed and.
Yeah. And
It's okay. It's all right. So far you've had two children. You went to college for nursing.
yeah, I left school for nursing because I had two kids at home and it was too much. And um, I was doing the Spice. Nobody else knew about it except for me.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my second daughter's dad split up, and I got with my son's father. And a couple years later, I had him. When him and I broke up, that set me in a total whirlwind. I started acting out, hanging out with bad influences.
Was it just the heartbreak and the pressure of being a mom of two, a
Yeah,
student?
left alone with all of it,
Right.
and I started experiencing with heroin.
Okay.
So I was hooked on the Spice and I was hooked on the heroin. And my family slowly but surely started noticing a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandma actually is the main one, and she's been through my whole recovery with me the whole time and has never left my side. She's my best friend. Uh,
Can you like kind of narrow down, like you said, you went through these changes that were noticeable? What were some of the things that were happening with
um,
you? People would.
I wouldn't work. I was constantly begging people for money.
Uh huh.
I was neglecting my children.
Okay.
Um, you know, I would I would go get my heroin and then I'd lock them in their bedroom and I'd leave them locked in there all night and I'd get high. I pawned everything I owned that had any value. I pawned everything of theirs that was any value. I just went down a really bad path for about a year, and then my grandma offered me recovery. I'd
Okay.
never heard of recovery, never been through recovery.
Just like a rehab
Yeah,
center,
in
hospital
Florida,
in
of all
Florida.
places.
Okay.
So, me, my thinking, oh, it's a free ride to Florida.
Uh
I didn't
huh.
really care about
Right.
recovery. I cared about getting out of the cold and pawning my kids off on somebody, and I was going
Sure.
to go continue to do the same thing.
So how old were you basically when you took off for
I
Florida?
I was 23.
Okay.
I didn't start hard drugs until I was 23.
So
Well,
from
the heroin.
17 to 23, it
Yeah.
really spiraled
Yeah.
quickly for you.
And then I went to rehab in Florida.
Hmm.
I left my children with family members back home,
Okay.
which turned around to, well, leaving my son and my middle daughter bit me in the rear end, for leaving them.
Hmm.
I shouldn't have left in the first place, but everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
And so I went to Pensacola, Florida for a rehab. I met the love of my life in rehab.
Hmm.
And I ran away from rehab with him to Columbus, Georgia.
Georgia.
Yes. So I immediately started hanging out with the bad people in Georgia. I got hooked on methamphetamine.
Okay.
So I went I went to rehab for heroin and then left rehab, got hooked on meth. And that's what did it. That was my dream drug right there. I just gives you all the energy, and you lose weight and this and that, and I just thought it was awesome. And then slowly but surely I found myself living on the streets. I found myself not having any food to eat. I found myself homeless and alone, and I got arrested my very first time in Columbus, Georgia for theft at a Dollar General. I was high on meth, and I went in there and I just filled my purse up, and they caught me, sent me to jail. My dad and my grandma showed up in Georgia at my court date and said they wanted me court ordered back to the original rehab that I ran from
In Florida. Okay.
So I agreed to this knowing that I'm going to run immediately.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did.
Okay.
They drove me all the way to Florida, Pensacola, Florida, and I stayed 48 hours and I dipped. Found a bus ticket back to Georgia.
So now you're in contempt of court.
Yeah.
You're gone missing from the rehab center. You're
Yeah.
using heroin and methamphetamine at the same
I wasn't
time.
using heroin anymore. I was strictly on meth.
On the methamphetamine.
Yeah, I just.
Okay, so you dip back to Georgia.
Yeah, I get back to Georgia and I continue doing the same thing I was doing before, and I'm on the run for about 6 months, and I get caught one day and I go back and I get sentenced to 180 days, and I have to complete that. Well, I got out on a pretrial release program. I did the 180 days, and then I was supposed to report immediately to a probation officer, and then I had court the next week, and I was going to come home back to Indiana.
Okay.
And my dad showed up. Luckily, I made it there. My dad showed up, and he brought me home. Well, on the way home, I got really sick. I slept the whole 13 hours, and when I woke up, I had blisters all over my legs. Long story short, I was rushed to the hospital, and they admitted me for endocarditis.
Oh.
So I was doing it intravenously.
Was that a result of using the needles?
It's like a problem with your heart valves, and my blood vessels were coming up outside my legs. So I stayed there for a long time, about 7 days. And then when I got released from there, I went to another sober living facility. Again, I'm not trying to work a program. I just need a place to go.
Gotcha.
So I go to this sober living facility for about 2 weeks, and then I take off. Like, I'm not taking this recovery thing serious at all.
Did you just get frustrated with it, or was withdrawals a factor? Or
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to stop. It was fun to me, I was still young. I was like 24 years old 25 at this point. And I just felt like I needed more time to party, I guess. I don't know.
Sure.
But I was in and out of rehabs, in and out of treatment facilities. I never once, worked any of the steps. Well, I got put in another facility. It was a 9-month program, and it stuck. I was sober for 14 months. I was doing great. I was working steps, halfway kind of. And I got in an early relationship, and we broke up, and that sent me back out into another relapse.
It seems like the trend here sort of is, yeah, you're using and you're young, but your priorities messed up, but then you get an emotional attachment to
Yep.
somebody.
And I don't surrender completely. I
Okay.
never once fully surrendered. Um, so I relapsed and I was on the run, not on the run, but using, um, living on the streets,
Uh-huh.
using meth for about a year. And I get a phone call from my grandma, and she has opened a sober living facility in hopes to get me to come home.
She opened an entire facility just in hopes
Yeah,
her
through
granddaughter
her
would come.
ministry. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I'm like, maybe next week, maybe next week. I still
Mm-hmm.
wasn't ready.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got arrested March 10th of 2017 for auto theft,
Okay.
and I sat in jail for 6 days, and she was waiting outside the jail doors when I got released. And I came back to Anderson, where we are now, and um, I live.
If you would. First name.
Okay,
Yeah.
you could cut this part out, right?
Oh no, this is gonna be raw and
Shut up.
continuous and it's all right.
So I moved into the house of Shifra,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't want it at first. I was having withdrawals from the meth. It was
Mm-hmm.
really psychologically messing with me. Um, I couldn't really go anywhere or do anything. So I'd call her every chance I got. Hey, come pick me up. Let me run errands with you.
Yes.
Something.
Just get me out.
Well, I started to get to know the girls at the house, and we started going to meetings and going to events, and it turned into something fun for me. I have a really good relationship with my higher power, who I choose to call God.
Mm-hmm.
And I just told him, look, like, I surrender, please help me get this. I want to get this. And you get what you ask for,
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah, you do.
something just stuck this time. I stayed at the house of Shifra. I met the man who is now my husband,
Okay.
and I took over the house of Shifra. I'll have 5 months sober March 10th.
Okay.
So I'll have 5 years sober, and
5 years.
um, I'm running the house of Shifra now, and my husband runs the Bethel house. And it's like, this is what it's all about, is, leading more people to recovery, and then eventually leading them, to their higher power, which is ultimately the only thing that's going to keep them sober.
Yeah.
And I love my life today.
Good.
I
That's
wouldn't
good.
change it for anything.
So you now run a sobriety living house?
Yes, it's the house I went through to get clean.
Okay. So you already went through there. After you surrendered, you got yourself clean.
Yeah.
You're still 5+ years clean,
Yeah.
and now you're helping others.
Yeah, I got serious about the steps, started working the steps, and hitting as many meetings as possible, and it really does work if you work it properly.
It does. It does. What stands out to me in your story? I mean, there's a lot of points you put out there, but the amount of times that you were either court ordered or loved ones said, "Hey, you're going to get cleaned up," and it just didn't work.
No.
And then you eventually got it after
Yeah.
what, 4 times, 5 times?
Every other time that I was trying to get sober, it was always for someone else,
Ah,
whether it was the courts or a man or my kids or my family. It had to be for me. It
mm-hmm.
wasn't going to work until I finally surrendered and did it for me.
So you had to do it absolutely all for yourself,
Yeah.
not for your children, not for some guy, not for anybody else.
Yeah.
But
And this last time getting sober, I didn't have any court making me do this.
uh-huh.
Something that it was the first time in my life that it wasn't the courts on my back.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I want to do this because I want to do this, not because I'm being forced to do it.
Did you get sick and tired of being sick and tired?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine ever going back.
I think it's really great that you lead this women's sobriety house, and that cannot be easy at all. Maintaining your sobriety and looking over. I mean, what capacity does your house
I think we have room for 11.
hold? Okay.
Um, and it's a blessing.
Yes.
Like, I have my stressful days and get my, you know, it gets stressful, but ultimately it helps me stay sober. And I just I feel like it's my passion is to help these women that don't think that there's any hope.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to be that hope for them. I
Right.
want to lead by example, and I want them to see, you know, look how far she's come. If she can do that, I can do it. And
So you're keeping what you got by giving it back.
yeah, you can't keep it unless
No.
you give it away, anyways. You know, and that 12th step is carrying the message. What best way to do that? You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Definitely. Most definitely. Also, you have to make some really tough choices or decisions, not choices, but decisions when it comes to running the sobriety house.
Yeah.
Say one of your clients has a relapse or something like that. It's up to you to make that judgment call, isn't it?
Yeah, I base it case by case.
Uh-huh.
Um, you know, really, we really have a zero tolerance policy, but I'm known to give second chances, and somebody gave me that second
Yeah.
chance. And if they wouldn't have given me that chance, I would be dead today
Right.
or in prison for the rest of my life because um, the Kristen before I got sober is not the Kristen I am today. And I know people can change
Mm-hmm.
regardless what their past is. Um, but yeah, if someone relapses, you know, you can go to treatment and then come back. You know, I'm here for you. There's no reason to get mad at that person. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's hard. It's really hard. Especially until you get further along. The earlier you are in sobriety, the more delicate you are, you
Yeah,
know.
I've discovered that. I'm only 6 months along, and
That's
I
awesome though.
realize it's up.
You've came a long way.
Thank you. It's realizing though how new I am to all this. When you think you kind of got it, you don't. You learn something else,
Yeah.
or something falls in your path, and you have to overcome it without medicating yourself, without taking the option of falling off and going back out. It's just a continue. I think it's a continuing education process, and they say day by day. It's learning how to cope day by day.
You have to remain teachable.
Yes.
If you stop becoming teachable, then there's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I still learn new things every day, you know,
Right.
and I'm still working on my character defects, but I recognize those today, and you know, it's a process.
It is. Sometimes I have to write down new character defects I didn't tackle the time before when I was going through the steps.
I'm still writing down people on my amends list
I am too.
that I think of, you know,
Yeah.
as I think of them. If I can make that amends, I try to.
Yeah. Definitely. Most definitely. I'm also learning here recently that a lot of people I came into the program with who had a great deal of sobriety time, a great deal of taught me an awful lot. They've relapsed,
Yeah.
and to not close that door or give up. You can only do so much with phone calls, voicemails, texts, without condemning or pointing a finger or getting angry, but letting them know that this door is still open and it's up to you to walk through it. Or,
Yeah. I've had a lot of people in my life that have been sober and doing great and then just fall off and
yeah,
you don't hear from them, and all you can do is pray and be there for them when they decide to reach out for help. Um, you can't help them unless they want it, and if you get sucked back into that life, it's a lot harder just to come out again, you know, and humble yourself and
mm-hmm.
put your pride away. It's hard to do that.
Because there's shame, and,
Yeah.
and you're going to think people are going to be whispering behind your back at the meetings
Yeah. Who
again. And
cares what people are
yeah, who
saying?
cares?
You know? Yeah.
You can't control that anyway, but you
It's none of
can.
your business what they think
It
about
isn't
you.
your business or mine or anybody else's or
Yeah.
anybody thinks.
You just worry about yourself, and it'll be all right.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And in regards to our topic we're talking about now, it seems like reflecting on your story, the one pivotal person that always had their arms open and the door open and the phone line open was your grandmother.
Yeah.
She's a pastor,
She's
isn't she?
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. She's awesome.
she is awesome.
She's been my rock through all of this, you know.
That's great. And that's an ambition I have. Hopefully, all of us can be a rock to somebody who needs,
Yeah.
I don't know, well, just like a rock, like that strong personality or success in the program or that tough personality without co-signing anybody's BS on
Yeah.
their excuses or anything.
She didn't understand, manipulation and all of that stuff. She didn't understand anything about a drug addict.
Uh-huh.
And now she understands. She knows what to look for. She knows about the steps. She knows about the program.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to be a part of that for me. It was so funny. Even when I got sober this last time, um, she said, "Well, if you have to get off of drugs, I'm going to stop eating sugar. I'm
Wow.
going to, you know,
She
because
went
that's a
down that
drug
road, but
too.
sure.
She wasn't a drug addict or anything like that, but sugar is very addicting, and
Mm-hmm.
so she quit eating sugar for a while, just to kind of so I wouldn't be alone in this, and that was kind of cool.
That's amazing to me because, yeah, it is a drug. It is satisfying and it's something that you can lean on. But to understand what your loved one's going through to give up something like that,
Yeah.
to understand where they're at in their
Hmm.
point in life and their recovery, um, I would have to say I would be willing to make a deal with anybody I could sponsor. I would give up cigarettes in order to understand,
Yeah.
where
That would be difficult.
it would be difficult.
I've tried, and that's the last thing I'm still working on is nicotine.
Same here. Same here, definitely.
Eventually, though, I plan to be done with it all. Just be
Right.
healthy.
Well, Kristen, if you had to say anybody who stumbles across this channel on any platform and they're at the point that you were at in Georgia, they're on the streets, they're hopeless, broken, I mean, can't stop crying, cannot stop using, would you have any type of direction or counsel for that person?
For me, um, when I was living on the streets and I was hopeless, I was suicidal. I say I was suicidal, but I don't think I would have ever done anything. But I hated my life. I
Yeah,
didn't care whether I lived or not, and um, just reach out.
just start somewhere,
Yeah,
anywhere.
start somewhere. I didn't know anything about the program, but um, meetings are good. Going to a meeting or trying to reach out to a family member and be honest with them about what you're doing, and somebody is gonna
Right.
know some information for you.
Hmm. I had to go through that myself because I could remember when I had actually stopped using but had nowhere to go and no one to lean on and no treatment whatsoever. I just prayed really, really, really hard, cried out for help, and
Yeah.
it seemed like it happened little bits at a time. It didn't get done in one day or even 1 hour. Like one day, somebody called me back on the phone and said, "Hey, why don't you try this place or this clinic or what?" And it just happened to fall into place. I had to pursue it though.
Yeah. My other bit of advice is to cry out to whoever your higher power is. Cry out to them for help. It's going to be heard, and your prayers will be answered.
Yeah, they will. They will. Also, just to tag along with that, pray for the shame not to engulf you or the guilt
Yeah.
that because I was like you. I wasn't so much suicidal as I just didn't want to live anymore.
Yeah.
And I wanted all the bad to go away, and I thought death would take that away, but that's not the case. Um,
Yeah. No.
I even got some good counsel from people who were still using, who had been through a program but fell off, that were willing to reach out and go, hey, this place worked for me, or that place, call this number, and it did.
Yeah.
Is that sort of your case too, to where you just little
Um,
bits at a time, little bits of advice?
I mean, yeah, I'd heard stuff, but I didn't care to listen to anybody. Like, I was
Yeah,
just worried about a place to stay.
right.
Like, I wanted I didn't necessarily want to quit using, but I didn't want to be homeless, if
Yeah,
that makes
it
sense.
does.
Doesn't work like that though.
No, unfortunately, it doesn't. Kristen, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story.
Yeah.
It sounds like you have come light years away from 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know that person anymore.
It's probably good. I like the person before me today. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
to know
I
her.
like you too.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you very much. You and your husband and your family do so much for so many. It's just being a part of what you two have put together amazes me. Your grandmother who helped you and everybody so much has helped me with this podcast and helped me along with it, and that she wanted to be a part of it too and
Absolutely.
endorsed it. So maybe in the global scope of things, we're not changing much, but one person at a time, we can
Yeah.
maybe make a difference with that.
Yep. That's all that matters is that we change at least one person at a
That's
time.
right. And I'm grateful to you to come on. You're not alone, that maybe somebody could hear this, somebody in the world, anywhere, and think, wow, I'm there right now. And if she's made it this far and has become a leader of women and a leader in the sobriety community, I can do that too.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Nerve wracking, I know, but
All
you did great. You did
right.
great. So I want
Cool.
to thank you so much, Kristen. And by chance you're having some issues or problems with substance abuse, mental problems that lead you to make your life not as in control as you would like to be, on YouTube, please look at my screen on my channel. There's all kinds of resources for you. There's numbers, there's websites. Please reach out to your local church or community center. Try to seek help any way you can. And until next time, everybody, God bless you and keep you. And you're not alone.